Hello class, today's date is January the 14th, and yesterday, January the 13th, was the due date for the very first introduction lesson. So all of the items inside of the introduction lesson folder was expected to have been completed by last night. And now we can move on to the first lesson, lesson number 1. I shouldn't say first lesson, but it is lesson number 1. As we go along deeper into the semester. Lesson number 1 is due January the 27th. So we have around 2 weeks to complete lesson number 1. I've noticed that many students have already started working ahead on lesson number 1 activities and the discussion boards, and I certainly appreciate that. Let's keep the conversation going on the discussion board, and I will continue to participate with those boards. If you check your grade book, you will see a grade for the introduction lesson Q&A discussion board. If you don't see a grade for some reason, let me know. But if a student participated in that board, you should have a grade. For the lesson number 1 folder, we have our first Maxwell quiz. So make sure to read all the material before you complete the Maxwell quiz. Keep in mind, I provide the actual questions to the quiz in advance in your lesson document. So there will be no surprises when you take the quiz. The quiz can only be taken one time, so please don't ask to take it again, in fairness for everyone else. Yeah, we've had lots of good discussion on the discussion boards. A common question is, how do we make sure we cover what we need to and retain the information that's most important? And how do we make sure we catch up? Well, to be honest, I would encourage everybody to slow down. I sense a circumstance of some of us feeling rushed, or that we just want to get this done to get it done, and move on to the next item. And I'm a tad bit concerned about that. So let's all slow down. And if we follow the guideline I give you in each lesson, we will get to where we need to get to. But as I said in my lesson number 1 notes and introduction lesson, when we're trying to learn something new, something that could be challenging, the worst thing we can do is try to get it done just to get the process done and to rush through it. Usually the best way to learn something new and to absorb new information is to create a schedule for yourself, to make sure that the assignment is due by the particular due date, and not try to do all of it in one setting. Give yourself some time to think about the material you're reading, make some notes in terms of big ideas and things that's most interesting to you, and questions that you may be collecting, and try to find answers to those questions yourself, or post those questions in a new discussion board I posted or created that was called Coffee House, or within the existing discussion board for that lesson. But we need to slow down and learn for the sake of learning. And remember that education is a journey, it's not a destination. That's extremely important. Because if we consider education a journey, we can apply those skills and mistakes and lessons learned and successes to our own lives and experiences. But if the only goal is to get to the end point, to get done as fast as we can, no matter what, we're not going to learn very much, and it will be wasted effort. And the one way you can check yourself to know if you're really getting what you think you should be getting out of the material is to ask yourself 3 questions. Can you think about the material? Do you understand the material? That's the first question. The second is, can you write about the material? Can you describe to someone else in writing what the material means in the big picture? Last but not least, can you talk about it? Can you explain the material, the lessons learned, to a stranger? And would a stranger understand what you just experienced and read? And can you continue and carry on a conversation that's logical and realistic based on the material with someone else? If you can do those three things, think about it, write about it, and talk about it, then more than likely you will have gained something from the material. And that's sometimes a hard lesson to learn, and something that's hard to conceptualize. That finally became clear to me when I wrote my thesis. I spent 9 to 10 months writing my document, and then the document had to be defended to my chairperson that I knew, who was my advisor, and two strangers. And the conversation lasted about 2 hours, and there was a lot of give and take. And I noticed throughout the conversation I had with the committee, some parts of the committee, or the questions that we talked about, I had a really good grasp of, because I took time to ensure that I was able to think about it, write about it, and talk about it in advance in a way that documented and improved my understanding. There were some sections of the experience of the presentation that I was somewhat lost about. And those parts of the conversation where I was lost was the parts that I rushed through my thesis, and I just researched or wrote the material to get it done without totally understanding the implications and the history behind the material. And I regret that after the fact. And that occurred almost 10 years ago. It's 9 years ago now. And I still regret that some of that was time lost that I could have spent. There is an old question, old wise tale, that asked, if you don't have time to do what you're supposed to do today and do the best job you can, when will you have time? And I try to ask myself that. And that can certainly be applied to a problem-solving class, the topic of problem solving, or any other activity we do in life. If we don't have time today, when will we have time? And that's a question I would like to pose to everyone. Again, if you have concerns, need help, I will be happy to talk with you via telephone, in person, in the office, online, email, whatever we have to do. Also, please make sure to check your emails for any sales contacts from the college. Please resist the temptation to delete the sales email. It's extremely important that you don't. In a couple of days, I will be sending out a method that you can use to make appointments with me online. You can actually go into the sales system and make an appointment with me in person or on telephone or in the computer, and I will be able to send you a confirmation and that type of thing. It's a pretty neat way to create opportunities for conversation. Also, Blackboard IM, Instant Messenger, which was mentioned in your introduction lesson. Feel free to download that software to your computer and install it. And I'm currently looking at Blackboard IM now. I see that 10 of you have signed up. And anytime you see that I'm available, please let me up and say hello. It doesn't do any good to install the software and just leave it there if we don't talk to each other. And at the very least, just say hi and let me know how things are happening and going with you. In the meantime, I do plan on setting up a few online office hours for folks to drop in. If you're interested in dropping in and saying hello, that's specific. In the late afternoon or night time, maybe 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, that type of thing. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, I've enjoyed your discussion board post and your questions, and I'm available in Carroll Hall on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, at the Crossroads Institute on Thursdays, and I would really enjoy conversations about our material. Take care.